Now, in this chapter now, we're talking about bonds. And there's two things that, as a student, you need to know how to do. You need to know how to find the value of the bond, and you need to know how to calculate the yield on the bond. Now, if they tell you the price of a bond, they want you to calculate yield. And if they tell you the yield, they're going to want you to calculate the price. Now, in this particular problem now, it reads like this. It says the Salem Company bond currently sells for $955, has a 12% coupon interest rate and a $1,000 par value. It pays interest annually and has 15 years to maturity. The A part says calculate the yield to maturity on the bond. Now, when you calculate the yield to maturity on the bond, the first thing you want to do now is calculate what's called the approximate yield to maturity. So what we have up here is some kind of bond indenture stuff. They tell us the price of the bond. And to calculate the approximate yield to maturity, you use the formula here, the annual interest plus the price of the bond at maturity minus the price of the bond now in the market divided by the number of years to maturity. That's the numerator. In the denominator, the price of the bond at maturity plus the price of the bond in the market divided by 2. Now, the price of a bond at maturity is always face value. That's what it would sell for at the end of its life. And what you have in this equation now in the numerator, this is basically the average inflow per year with this bond. And what you have in the denominator is the average value of the bond over its life. Plug in what you know, the annual interest, the coupon rate or stated rate times the face value, so 12% times 1,000, get you $120. The price of the bond at maturity, all bonds sell for face value, in this case $1,000. Subtract from that the price of the bond in the market, which they told us was $955. And the number of years to maturity, they tell us is 15. The denominator, again, the price of maturity plus the price of the market divided by 2. And what that gives us is an approximate yield to maturity of 12.58%. Now, the way you use this now to find the yield to maturity on the bond is you use that to give you an idea of where the yield is. Because at this point, or before we did this, we had no idea where the real yield on this bond was. At this point, we know it's 12.58%. And what we're going to say is that, well, it's somewhere between 12% and 13%. And that's the starting point you need to be able to calculate an interpolated yield on the bond, which is what we're going to do in the next video.